What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. KG is back here for a match preview. We're playing Everton on the weekend. Now, after last weekend's very disappointing defeat, I'm hoping that the boys will be ready. Obviously, my guest here, who is an Everton fan, will be hoping that we're not ready. But I've got with me Marva, who is now part of the Gold Diggers podcast. How you doing, Marva?
Not too bad. Actually on holiday, so enjoying a little break. And
Yeah, people, she's joining me from Spain, so very, very grateful for her for taking some time out. But I would say in my defense as well, if I was away and someone asked me, I'd do it too, just to say I was on holiday and I'm doing it. So
yeah, just to show off that I've managed to get away.
Yeah, a light flex. So yeah, man. So in regards to Everton, the summer that you've had, because it's fair to say, I mean, with Everton, when you got the new owners in, you guys spent a whole bunch of money, and dare I say, on a whole bunch of nothing in total. Like it was wasted. So this summer, Rafa Benitez comes in, transfer window. What do you make of it so far?
I mean, he's been pretty limited in what he can do. Like you said, we spent a load of money on a load of nothing, and we're suffering the consequences now, essentially. We've also had a lot of changes of managers, which means that we've got a big mismatch of players who we're just like, they don't belong. You know, someone like James Rodriguez is on a crazy amount in terms of wages, doesn't fit into Benitez's plans, seemingly. So it's like, well, what do you do with that? We've got loads of players who have come from so many different managers, and you're trying to line them up. So to be fair on Benitez, he's got his hands tied, not only in terms of what he's left with now, but what he can now go out and buy, because we're restricted when it comes to financial fair play in how much we can now go forward, because we haven't benefited from what we've paid out from. So we haven't really got the revenue back at the moment to be able to go out and spend. So yeah, it's not really his fault, but I was, as much as we were a bit demotivated by the signings of someone like Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend, they're not people that scream out to you, you know, in the same way as last season when we were getting Alan Decore and James Rodriguez. It was like, great, we're going to push forward. Yeah. This time it's been a bit like, okay, Andros Townsend, what exactly are we going to go forward and do with that? But in fairness to Benitez, you know, he clearly has a plan of that and what he's going to do with those players. The way we played on the weekend was clearly getting those crosses in, and who better to do it really than Andros Townsend and Demarai Gray, signed very cheaply. It's like, you can't really complain when it's done. These players are signed cheaply and doing the job they're supposed to do. That's kind of the signings we used to get in with Moyes in that sort of era, pre-Mashiri. So I can't really complain in terms of Benitez, but obviously we'd be sort of hoping for a bit more, and we'll see what happens with the likes of Keane and Rodriguez and what we can get in if we do sell them.
Yeah, James Rodriguez is a funny one because he is a talented player, but he's very much a system player. So if you don't fit in his system, you've pretty much got no use for him. You know, I wouldn't go as far as to say he's a luxury player. I know that's a bit harsh of a tag, but he kind of strolls into that tag because he's not going to run back. We saw last year he weren't sprinting back, so Rafa Benitez probably demands that too. So it is going to be strange to see where it ends up. You mentioned Townsend. Got to be nice to Troy Townsend, my guy. Shout out to him. But yeah, I know what you're saying in regards to that. Demarai Gray had an indifferent time at Leverkusen too. It wasn't even like it was a blind success. So, and then also you've also got a midfielder missing through circumstances
that we can't exactly talk about, but yeah.
No. But I mean, when it's such a pivotal midfielder as well, and it's not Fabian Delph, what does that do to the fans also? Because it's not like you're just missing a little player here. The guy in question is somebody who would take set pieces, penalties, corner. He'd do all of that for you. So what does that do?
Well, it's a funny one because I think had that not happened, this would be a player that most fans would have wanted out anyway. Whether that's fair or not, I think he got maybe too much stick last season. I mean, I'm not a big fan of his, and obviously given the money you spent on him, but that's not his fault, the money spent on him. But he saved us quite a few times last season. Like I said, set plays, just his crossing ability, it was helpful. And then to not have James Rodriguez either, who also plays that role of the set pieces and that kind of creative spark, it is a bit of a miss. Obviously, Digne is quite good on set pieces, but that it is a style of player we're missing fortunately, Benitez is playing a system where we're not really needing that sort of 10 role right now. And I think the player in questions where he was lacking was when he had to play out wide. So in that sense, we're not particularly missing him right now. But I think just in terms of our squad and what it's looking like with our squad depth, as much as that's a player that, like I said, most fans would be like, we don't want him anyway, get him out. It means we haven't brought anyone in new because of the circumstances of it. And I think we will miss not necessarily him as a player, but at least that option, because right now we don't have a replacement for that option, basically.
Yeah. So in terms of the season on the whole, what are you expecting as an Everton fan?
It's hard to say. I feel like I don't have expectations right now, because any other season where it would have been this lead up, I would have had some expectations. But I think just because of last season seemed the one where we'd have some hope, and it was a new, exciting start, and it was something that was different. It was finally like, is this our moment, you know? And then that just didn't happen on many levels. And so it just kind of feels like not only how I sort of would have felt maybe with like a Martinez or a Coman or a Silva, but it's the fact that if this was then right after Moyes, I might be more excited. But instead, it's like our fourth manager like this, where it's like, what are we really expecting? What's really our hope? With Ancelotti, you could see maybe a long-term goal of great, bringing back up to, you know, European football. This time I'm a bit like, I don't really know. It's not like we've got this pool of bringing, you know, world-class players like it felt like we were getting last year. So it just kind of feels like I had my hopes up high, and now it's like, I don't really know. So I feel like bringing back some of that essence of Goodison, like we saw on the weekend, is in itself an achievement. I think if we can get some home wins, again, we were really struggling with those last season. Obviously, with the pandemic, it's a bit of a different situation, but our form at Goodison was awful. And even though we improved on beating teams away, again, it might have been because of the lack of fans, but even to just get some of those home wins again that we should be winning, and feel like we're a bit of a consistent team against, you know, lower opposition, then that in itself is a bit of an improvement and a bit of a win. But I'm not here hoping for like fourth or fifth or sixth even. I'm just hoping for a few wins and it not be a disaster, really.
Yeah, because I mean, unfortunately, Everton aren't doing their press until tomorrow. In terms of Leeds United, we may have Calvin Phillips back, which is, if he doesn't start, it's a completely different team.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing that stuck out for me, you just mentioned your transfer window there. For me, I thought we was going to do a little bit more ourselves too, in order to push up the table, and we haven't done it. And it doesn't sound like we've got too much money to do something either. And it's not even like Bielsa, who would say that I'm happy with this squad now if this is what it is. He actually says that we need a couple of players, but because we bought so well last summer, they delayed the transfer funds, so things have been paid out this summer. So now we're having to kind of barter with Huddersfield over Lewis O'Brien. Lewis O'Brien.
What are your expectations this season? Is it a kind of like worried about a second season slump, or are you kind of quite confident it could be a mid-table sort of thing again?
Yeah, I think we'll have the mid-table thing again. I don't think we'll be one of the worst teams, but from where I was at the end of the season, thinking that we'd improve in a few positions, we've only improved in one. So you got to look at it and say, with Villa recruiting so well, you guys have now got Benitez, because I see us in that bracket of that mid-table bracket of people that can fluctuate. You know, Arsenal.
I mean, that hurts a bit, given that we thought we'd be a bit higher up, but fine. I'll take the mid-table fodder now.
In all fairness, I was thinking that we would be pushing for 6th, 7th ourselves this year, but I don't think that's the case. And if there is people, you know, live or in the comments when you watch the video back, that think that Leeds can still finish in Europe, tell me why. You know, tell me why. Just tell me why you think we can do it, because I'm interested to hear. But in terms of how we've got to go, you had a great result last week against Southampton, who to be fair, myself and Rants on this channel said that we think they're going to get relegated.
I think they'll struggle this year,
Yeah. I mean, I like Adam Armstrong a lot because, you know, one of my boys is at Blackburn. But I just don't think they've got enough. They lost Vestergaard too. But so I'm not saying it was a free hit for you last week, but how did you guys play in that game? How did you feel that went?
I mean, we weren't like amazing, to be honest. I think overall we probably deserved to win. Especially second half, we came out with some desire, which has been lacking not only without fans at Goodison. I think for a while it's been lacking, and it's been our kind of downfall for a while, to be honest. So that was great to see. I mean, there's a crazy stat that it was the first time we'd won a game after being down at halftime since like 2016. It was a game against West Brom when Lukaku was playing for us. So it's like, it's been a long time since we've, and that shows our mentality and our desire that when we go down, we very rarely win. We got better at that last season, but even then it wasn't, when we were down at half time. So, that was an improvement to show that we could actually do that and have the mentality to fight back and use the crowd and get that kind of ambience back at Goodison, where we used that to our advantage. That was great. I think the game plan was clear from Benitez of crosses, which might seem obvious, but to be fair, when you've got Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison in the box, it's not a bad tactic, really. So it was there were positives for sure, and I think it made a lot of us feel a little bit better about the season. I think if that had gone badly, everything could have gone very badly. I think this crowd, as much as they supported Benitez, there were reports of booing and stuff, but that wasn't really there apparently. As much as they support him now, given his history, I think it could turn very quickly. So it was very important to get that win. But it's not like we watched that and we're like, wow, we're an incredible team. We're going to blow teams out the water this season. It was like, great win, great home win. That's the kind of win we were hoping for more last season. If we could add that to, beating some of these better teams away like we built on last season, we'd be in with a good shot. But I feel like it's just going to switch the other way, that we'll get some more of these sort of home wins and still not do that great away, basically.
Yeah, we swapped results last season. We beat you at Goodison, and you beat us at Elland Road. So,
but even that game, I mean, you probably should have got something out of that game at Elland Road. We got those two sort of early goals, and then I think you got a goal right at the beginning of the second half. And I was like, is it going to be just a nice, easy win for once in our lives? And it wasn't. And then you were just like completely on top. I think I stopped watching it at one point because I was like, this is just like torture to watch it over and over and over again, and somehow held on. But I think you're a team that we're not that equipped to deal with. I think Southampton's a team that is more. We're good enough in our kind of positional play, in our defensive play, to when they're kind of slightly slower on the attack, that we'll have enough players back and be organised enough to stop their attack. But when it comes to a fast attacking team like you guys, we haven't really stood the test so far, and I don't know if we will this season either.
Okay, just a comment here from Umair. The crowds in Leeds home games will be a huge difference, in my opinion. So Leeds above last season's position. But also, we do have that double-edged sword, like Marva says, for Everton fans, where when we're supporting you, we love you. But if things aren't going the way that they believe we should, it can get a little tense at Elland Road. It can get very tense.
Yeah.
Every pass gets, gets side at, and it's just.
We have a lot of that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that you're going to be well up for this. I mean, not only. Yeah, one, you have to be, and two, obviously after the result the weekend that's just gone, I mean, you've got to turn up now, and it's just to have fans properly back, since you've been back in the Premiership, really. But yeah.
Well, Tobes here, my guy Tobes. I feel Leeds might unleash some fury, especially if Philip starts. The thing is, it's not a guarantee, and that's a worry, because going back to last weekend's result, which was an absolute disaster. Shout out to everyone that watched the watch along I did on my channel. It was my first watch along.
Oh, no. What a game to do it.
Yeah. And shout out to the guy that gave the timestamps for all the goals going in, because he made it very easy. And I noticed that on my analytics for that video too. So I know where people
just went up and up.
Yeah. So what we had when Phillips wasn't there was very worrying, and it was the same last season too. And and Bielsa was talking about Adam Forshaw. You might remember him. He's one of your old boys. He's now fit after 2 years out with a hip injury, and he's making it sound like Forshaw might be the answer. So,
like a new signing, one of those.
oh no, I hate that. I hate that. But the thing is, I trust Bielsa. Trust me, I really
Yeah.
do. But for me, if it was any other team saying 2 years out, Adam Forshaw's coming back, I'd be saying, what the hell are these guys thinking? You know,
Although I've got to say, this is the kind of player that Everton, like you'll hear that this player's never scored, you know, hasn't scored in 2 years, and the only goal that they score in like 5 years is like against Everton. We always seem to have that.
We got that too. We got that too. Like
maybe every team has it and has that complex about themselves, but I just feel like it just always happens.
We definitely have it, like a scrub like Almiron from Newcastle. We don't do nothing, and all of a sudden he plays
don't
Messi
even mention Newcastle. Newcastle are like our bogey team at the moment. I can't even deal with them. But yeah, I feel your pain on that one.
Fair dues. John H asks, is Godfrey back?
So he was missing at the training video they've just released, along with like Calvert-Lewin, Gomez, and a few others. So it's not looking too good. I feel like Godfrey was in isolation, so probably still is. But yeah, it depends. I don't know if they would just check him on the bench if he's out of isolation by then, if he's been training separately or something. But it's not looking likely. And then Calvert-Lewin missing from this training video is a bit worrying as well. He had I think a slight problem. We weren't sure if he was going to play before Southampton, like an injured toe or something. So
good.
Yeah, if he's not playing, I'm a bit worried.
Yeah, I just shout out to Static. Static, I'm sure I saw you earlier say you got a light concussion. Yeah, take it easy and rest your head. Okay, I'm sure I saw you say that. I'm sure it was you. But you know, I want to talk about DCL, but I want to touch on Richarlison, because he's like one player that either people rate really highly or people don't see it. And I can understand that, because for me, he's way too inconsistent, and he was never worth the 40 to 50 million you paid, but you've paid it. Do you think he's got it in him for this season to move on to like 15 goals at least? Do you think he's got that in his locker?
Yeah, I think he does. It's going to be interesting to see how he deals with his fitness after obviously playing throughout the whole summer, playing in 2 huge tournaments, and then coming back. I really rate him. I think what people don't realize when they watch, if you watch him week in, week out, you see what he gives to Everton. It's beyond just goals and assists, like far beyond. We're a team who, like you're saying about James Rodriguez not tracking back, Richarlison is someone who works his socks off every single game. You will see him defend, corners. You will see him be one of the last players back to get the ball and go forward with it. And as a team who struggled with our sort of defensive ability and being solid throughout for the last few years, that's so important for us. And so obviously when you're not watching him week in and week out, I can understand that you just be like, oh, has he scored that much? Especially last season, he was a bit he seemed a bit tired, to be honest, as well. And he said that he had a bit of a break, and after the break he came back and massively improved on his goals and assists. So I think he was just a bit burnt out and tired, which obviously is a bit worrying for this season if that happens again. But no, I think he's hugely important to us. He completely improves our team. When he doesn't play, you see such a big difference. And he's got such a good partnership with Calvert-Lewin now. So his like worth to us is huge. I think if we were to sell him, the fact that we've held on to him this summer is like massive. I think if he'd gone, there were rumours of him going to Real Madrid and all of that with Ancelotti. But yeah, I massively rate him. Yeah,
and he's a lot like our players, a bit more techie, but they both play with a smile on their face when things are going right. But if it's not going right, they look like
he reminds me of just like a little kid, like one of the sort of like bad kids at school who like isn't that bad. Like teachers still quite like them, but they just like get into arguments all the time if someone says like your mom or something. Like you just like it's so emotional. You just get so like in it and just like sad, and you're like, so you just want to sort of hug him and be like, it's all right, like calm down.
Even when he scores, sometimes he still don't wipe that look off his face.
He's just like. But no, I love him. I absolutely love him. I think, and Everton fans love him too. He's just one of those. He's one of those players that, like, when he plays for you, you love him. When he plays against you, you hate him, because he does fall on the floor a lot. He does. Some is justified, to be fair. He does get fouled a lot. But yeah, he does stay down a lot too. But he's just smart with it. He's one of those kind of street smart players. Like sometimes he does it too much, but generally he's just one of those players you want on your team because he'll fight for every ball and he's annoying to play against. But I can understand why opposition fans really hate him because he can be quite annoying. And then he goes on Twitter and like laughs at other fans sometimes as well. So then people hate him more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does. Yeah, he did that in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Sure he did that. But no, hey, listen, I used him on FPL last week because I knew that you beat up Southampton. So fair play. And if there is any FPL players in here, who is your captain's armband going on? Just out of interest, because I've been passing this armband around like a bag of Skittles. I don't know who to put it on. So give me who you're putting it on. Leave whether it's in the live chat or in the comments after. So yeah, for this weekend's game, how do you see it going? Do you see you building on the momentum against Southampton, or do you think that we're going to be like something scorned, something looking out for?
I'm not too confident. I'll be honest. I'm a bit of a pessimist anyway, so I'm never too confident. But I am, with this, I think just given how much you're going to need this more so than us, I'm not too confident. I think especially if Calvert-Lewin isn't playing, that we might struggle with that, especially. And then we've also just got other players isolating still anyway. Like I said, like Godfrey, Gomez. So just the depth of our squad isn't great. Obviously, everything going on with James and Keane as well, who are apparently isolating, but not too sure how real that is.
Sorry, is Moise Keane still at Everton?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah, but he just clearly does not want to play for us.
No.
So it's a tricky one. Again, another signing who was from another manager. Now he's, given his potential and what he did at PSG, he's valued pretty highly. But PSG aren't going to buy him now. Very unlikely. They want him on. They were trying to get him on loan again. And it's like, and then apparently Keane was annoyed that we weren't letting him go on loan. But that makes absolutely no sense for our business to put him on loan. 2 years in a row to a team like PSG. So our depth of our squad isn't great right now, especially with all these isolations and transfer problems. We kind of need to ship out some players before we get some more in as well. So I'm not too confident, but I feel like given how you played against United, there may be some opportunities, especially. There may be some opportunities just in terms of obviously you're a team that gets forward a lot, and if we're playing now very much so where we just spread out to our wings and put in crosses. That's kind of how we scored against you actually in the game against Ellen Road last year. So might be some chances there, but again, if Calvert-Lewin isn't there, then how beneficial is it to just put in crosses all the time? So it'll be an interesting one, but I'm not too confident. I think you're probably going to win this one.
Oh, okay, so give what score prediction?
I think maybe like a 2-1 or maybe even a 2-0, possibly a 1-1. I'll be optimistic and go with that. I'll try and back my boys a bit more, but
Fair enough. I've put it in my Super Six already. I think it's going to be 3-1. I think we're going to look to bounce back. They have to. I think starting the season with 2 defeats, you don't understand. Our fan base can go nuts.
No, I understand. I'm an Everton fan. I understand.
We lose 2 games to start the season. You will be seeing fans saying we're going to get relegated. Oh my God, it's going to be. It's going to be absolutely bad.
That's essentially it for us as well. I feel like if we hadn't that Southampton game has bought Rafa a little bit of time, and I know it's only one win, but I'm a bit like, had we not won that, we would have need to have won this game because we would have just our fan base. If Rafa lost his first 2 against Southampton and Leeds, I just wouldn't want to be him. I just wouldn't want to be him. It would get bad. So I think there's a little bit of leeway now, but it's still not great.
Okay, and just before we get out of here, I just have to ask you about Jordan Pickford, as you're an Everton fan. What is your opinion of Jordan Pickford?
You know what? Like at the beginning of last season, I'd kind of held my hands up and thought, I'm done. I'm done with this guy, because we were this is when we were playing actually really well, and it was like I could forgive him the years before that, where it was like people blamed him a lot, but I'm like, this guy is making like 25 saves and then is messing up, you know, because we were so open. We just had shots on shots on shots, you know, faced against him, and it wasn't really his fault that then he would let a few in. But last season at the beginning, when it was like we were actually playing well, there was like a Brighton game. I think it was our third game of the season, where we were just playing really well, and then he just made an awful mistake, and it was like, now we actually need you. But then to be fair on him, after sort of around Christmas time, he just really turned it around and had a really great end to the season. And obviously for England, he did really well as well. And everyone was like, oh, you know, Everton, Pickford, England, Pickford. But actually he'd been playing in that form for the months before that, really, bar like one mistake maybe against Leicester, I think it was. Didn't start pre-season too well, but only played one game. He made a terrible mistake against United. But he's I mean, I rate him. I just think when everyone was going on about, you know, Nick Pope and all of that taking his place for England, I think what he can give you in terms of, when you see his distribution, when you see just how quick he is on his feet, and he, especially for a team like us, which sometimes we just need to get up the pitch, especially under Ancelotti, when there was just a lot of kind of passing sideways, to have that and just have someone to just get us up the pitch was really important. And I feel like Benitez particularly is playing that way as well. He's sort of preferring the kind of longer balls, playing a bit more direct, just out wide and then crossing it in. So yeah, it works for our benefit. And I think hopefully he sticks with that form and doesn't mess up for us too much. But saying that, I bet this weekend he'll just make a terrible blunder.
I mean, Saqib Ali says, do you think this is it? Is it a mental thing with Pickford? Because he's certainly acting mental as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. But he spoke. He did a good interview actually, where he was saying he got I think he got like a sports psychologist, was working with one, or maybe even just a psychologist who was talking about that and how it. And once he had his son as well, that he sort of calmed down a bit. And you could see that. You could see he was a lot more calm. He was a lot more rational. He wasn't making, you know, sort of crazy irrational decisions. He just seems a bit more secure in himself, and not getting into the kind of big, you know, sort of mind games and getting into sort of that sort of battle with players on the pitch. He was just sort of sticking to his own game. And you could see that with England as well. He was very sort of focused. And so that's really good to see. So hopefully that is a change that sticks, because that's something he's worked on. And you could definitely see the difference. A lot more of like a calming presence, but we'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, we will see. But yeah, listen, guys, that is the Leeds Everton preview. Obviously, bless up for Marva for coming on the channel. Obviously, I wish her team nothing but the worst come 3 o'clock on Saturday. And, you know, respectfully, as they say. So yeah. So Marva, you want to tell the people where they can find you, or if you've got anything to plug?
Yeah, I'm at Marva MSK on Twitter and Instagram. I've also joined Gold Diggers podcast, they're Gold Diggers UK, where we sort of review all the games from the weekend each week. So follow us there, and yeah.
Lovely. People, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't subscribed, share the stream and all that. Peace out, people. Love for the love.